Okay. Well, good morning in Chile
Good.
to everyone. Good evening to my guest, an amazing guest. I want to give you a most heartfelt and grateful welcome. A famous violinist, vocalist, and composer who could have become a famous physicist, as I read, having obtained a Bachelor of Science and degree in physics. He also became an ethnomusicologist and has taught in some campuses. And for what we know, he owes a lot of his discipline and passionate dedication to become the world-renowned musician he is today to a music professor who happens to be his father. Uh, for the people who used to listen to Future FM in Chile back in the 90s, Song for Everyone by Shankar, Garbarek, Hussain, and Gurtu was always on top of my playlist, and as well as all the Shakti records and his contributions to film scores like Peter Gabriel's Passion. Please receive my most grateful welcome, Mr. Shankar Lakshminarayana. Sorry about that if it's not right.
That's
Known as
correct. Yeah.
Shankar. Yeah, okay. So how are you? Welcome to my channel. It's an honor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, Christian. It's an
Mhm.
honor to be doing the interview with you for your channel and for Chile and your people, everyone there.
Yeah, lots of people love your music here. It's been like that for years, so it's a real like closing the circle. So I'd like to
Oh,
start. Yeah. Well, how's the weather in Malaysia?
in Malaysia, it's always very hot, but it rains now. So usually it's near the equator, so it's pretty much warm all the time. But I have air conditioning, so it's okay. Only outside, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, I had two topics in my first question to you.
Go for it.
How or why do you believe the musical roots of your home country in your music world of yesterday and today has become so easily meaningful and attractive to the Eastern ears? Not necessarily being simple, because you have managed to maintain the presence of your roots intact along the years.
With always all my music, different genres, everything as a Eastern connection, Indian connection to no matter what it is. And because I was born in Chennai, and my father was an international musician, so I grew up with all different kind of music. He would bring like records and everything else. My eldest brother too. So I was very educated in all the different world music in different genres. And but always in all my different genres, you can find my flavor, the Indian flavor, and all those things are one of the primary ingredients to my world music things.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
music to
The
those things. Yeah.
The other way around, in what way have you permeated to Western influences? I believe classical music had something to do with, at least at the beginning.
Actually, I was also like, besides playing classical music, a lot of my collaboration got like uh, attention. Like when I collaborated with Peter Gabriel, and I
Yeah.
helped Phil Collins do his Face Value, his first solo album. Then he would work on my album, and the collaboration with Frank Zappa, Phil Collins, or Shakti,
Yeah.
of course. So people notice that a lot. But usually, what I find is when one of their own artists likes Indian music or something. Like, for example, when George Harrison became a disciple of Ravi Shankar,
Mhm.
that opened up the world for Indian music. Yeah. And Ravi
Sure.
Shankar got very established. So I think the collaborations is a big thing. And I've always been playing classical music and different collaborations. So always, I moved to America in 1969.
Yeah.
And
I,
since, go ahead,
Uh,
you asked.
no, yeah, are there any classical composers? Because I myself, I grew up also in a very special family, little family, but we all like music, and Stravinsky came to my ears and eyes when I saw a movie, Disney's Fantasia. So I became in love with Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, the classical ones. I don't know
I
if you,
love all those composers I love. Brahms,
yeah,
Tchaikovsky, yeah,
yeah. Uh-huh.
Stravinsky, yeah.
Yeah, but talking about your countless, really impressive uh, amount of collaborations with varied musicians, from, as you were saying, Genesis members, ex-Genesis members like Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel, to other very well-known, diverse artists like the ones on the ECM label, to heavy metal people, Steve Vai, Stuart Copeland, Eric Clapton, Elton John, Animal Logic. I was surprised to find out that you also collaborated with Ryuichi Sakamoto, whom we love here,
Yeah,
Gary
yeah.
Wright, Mitch Ure, and even the Argentinian legendary Charlie Garcia, which is just a neighbor of us. So you have any special
Oh,
memories of any of those occasions?
I think many of the time that came through, I have lived around the world, like, so many time I go, a tour finishes, then I stay, say I finish a tour in South America, then I stayed there for a while in Rio de Janeiro. And that's
Mhm.
when I met lots of those top musicians. And
Yeah.
Gilberto Gismonti, or there was another great, I forgot the keyboard player, and there was a thing called Zimbo Trio. All these people would
Yes.
contact me when we are playing in the festival. And then I would collaborate with them. It was wonderful to um, incorporate different music and also learn their system to
Mhm.
incorporate from the master musician. The same thing when I lived in England. I lived in England in 1980. That's when I collaborated with Phil Collins. Then, while I was working with Phil, one day Peter Gabriel called Phil and he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm working with Shankar." He said, "Oh my God, so let me talk to Shankar." Then that's when he invited me for WOMAD. They were starting the WOMAD for the very
Okay.
first time. And
Mhm.
so he invited me, and then he invited me to do a track. And then I did a track for him. Lots of artists gave, like David Burns, many people gave um, tracks, and the record company chose my song called "The Himalayas" um, as a single, and and so I was involved while I was there. I was involved with Princess Diana's all those charity concerts, like in England,
I
and
see.
yeah, and then I worked with like John Lydon, Johnny Rotten, from Sex Pistols, and Pete Townsend, his solo album. So it's word of mouth, like pretty much. And it was a small, very small circle, so everybody talks, in that level. And so it was very easy. Then I stayed there for 2 or 3 years, and I moved back to America. And uh, but all the time I've lived in different places. I used to live in New York City for many years. That's when I did Sakamoto's album. It used to be a lot in New York
Oh,
City. Yeah,
what? Sorry, what album was that?
I don't remember the album's
Okay.
name. Yeah, but
Okay.
maybe if you go, I think my team has uploaded all those things in my website, so it
Yeah.
should be
Sure.
there somewhere around there. Yeah,
Sure. Sure.
and so it's a lot of different experience. I worked a lot with Jeff Beck and Pete Townsend, different people, like, and many times, like Lou Reed will call me up and say, "Shankar, can you come? I don't know whether it's enough for you. I would like some emotion, just for 4 bars. Maybe it's too small." Then I would tell him, "There's no 4 bars. Is more than plenty. No, really. I
Yeah.
think I get the emotion you want." So I went to the studio, like in New York, and heard the track and did the stuff for him, because many times I grew up with virtuosity. I grew up with like minimalism, different artists. Like when I work with Martin Scorsese, like my music is very visual. If somebody said you have like only 1 bar, can you do something? Then
Mhm.
I'll know what the situation is. Then I can condense, and so it's very important for
Yeah.
musicians to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go there in a while. Like, if I allow me to share this with people, this is your official lshankar.com webpage that I suggest everyone into your music and into great music to visit. And here are all your albums, of course. So you have an incredible amount of albums from the very early ones, the ones released in the 70s with typical music, yeah, music from the India, and then you grew so big along the years. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, Carnatic music was the initial music area you became acknowledged for, I guess. If you could tell me a little bit about those roots, perhaps unknown as a name or a style to some or most Eastern followers and music fans.
Yeah, Carnatic music, like in India, the classical music system is two systems. One is the North Indian music, Hindustani music, and the second one is South Indian music, which is Carnatic music. And the Carnatic music maybe like there were three very well-known composers like Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshidhar, and Shama Sastri. They all lived like 250 years ago. So they composed the major part of the Carnatic music. Then it was passed down through generation. And so I learned Carnatic music, but always I've written my own music. Because what happens is like when you are passing down that I was always a creative musician, so I wrote in Carnatic music lots of compositions. So most of the stuff you hear, even ECM or my classical concert, even though I still cover some of their compositions, and sometime in live concert I would do even more because the concerts are very longer, like in India, South India. My concerts sometimes used to be very long. I used to do shows with like Zakir Hussain and Bhikkhu Vinayakaram. They were like 4 hours. Yeah. And
Wow.
long, but
Yeah.
that was too long also, like in the Western stand. And um, the thing is that because then you can improvise a raga like for 1 hour or 45 minutes, then go into improvisation, all these things. But in the Western sense, like people don't have the time. And so it became like 2 hours. I've done two where I play like 4 hours, then it became 2 hours. Then now many times, like in the concert hall, they say play for 1.5 hours. No, then
Okay.
maybe an encore. That's all. So I accommodate whatever they want. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. Now, how
So
did you understand? Yeah, please go ahead.
Carnatic music is an amazing system, incredible system, and like improvisation, so many ragas and so many talas, and it's a great system. Yeah, but I would advise for the North Indian musicians to also learn South Indian music. It's very important, and I would advise the South Indian musicians to also learn the North Indian music, so they get a bigger picture.
Yeah, I see. Now, I was going to ask you, Shankar, how did you and the Shakti members first devise or conceive the sound of the band? I believe your personal purpose and one of John McLaughlin's was seeking uh, your roots into the fusion jazz world of Shakti. How did it all happen?
John, I was living in New York City, actually in Hartford, Connecticut, and John was living in New York City. So he used to come to Wesleyan University where I was teaching, and he was studying with a Veena player called Ramanathan. And then my uncle was also teaching drums there. So John knew my uncle, Ramnad Raghavan. In fact, he was the first one to play in the Turiyananda Sangeet prior to Shakti.
Okay.
Prior to Shakti. So when John came to me, then I started writing. He wanted a jam, then I started writing compositions immediately, like Joy, many of these songs, And then he would start coming from New York and start working with me clearly. And then, of course, I heard his jazz roots too. So he would put chords to them and things like that. And then very soon he started organizing shows. He said, let's play like in New York. And there was a show called Speak Easy, like which is an NBC coast to coast show. And we played in a show where there was like Michael Lev from Beach Boys and Peter Gabriel was there, Keith Jarrett was there, and a few other musicians, Maybe they all played like 10 minutes, things like that. So we were doing shows in New York City. At that time, the band was called, John had a guru, Indian guru called Sri Chinmoy. So he has named the band as Turiyananda Sangeet. This is a long word. That's from Bengali, like Calcutta, from the language. So I have suggested to John, we must change the name because to have like one name, which is easier for the Westerners.
Yeah.
And at that time, actually, as soon as he met me, very soon he wanted to disband Mahavishnu Orchestra. Then at that time, I suggested to him, I said, it's not a good idea because if you disband Mahavishnu Orchestra and you're going to be playing with me, then people are going to think that I'm the one who's the cause for the disbanding Mahavishnu Orchestra. Yeah. And I said, at least take a little time. Then I persuaded him, give at least 2 more months, then come to India with me. So he came to India with me for 2 months. Then he would play like Suri box. Suri box is a drone box behind the soloist. He will absorb all the music and everything else. And after the tour was over, then he came and told me, I definitely don't want to have Mahavishnu Orchestra. I said, okay. And that time, I also took him to a temple in India called Mukambika Temple. Mukambika Temple is a very, very famous temple. It's a Devi temple, goddesses, and she's the creator of music and all those stuff. And then when he came over there, then we changed the name. We decided to change it to Shakti. Yeah.
Which means?
And that's feminine beauty, power.
Yeah. Okay.
Great meaning. You can see that there probably in the records.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, have you met or played with the Shakti founding members recently, John Mclaughlin or Tilo Guptu or other musicians?
Recently?
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I played a lot more with Viku.
Okay.
I did a lot of playing. He's also from the South, so we did a lot of things. In fact, I released an album with Viku recently, Over the Star, like last year. And I released like 2 classical albums last year, which was, I think it was in August, which is called Over the Stars with Viku.
Yeah.
And then 1 month later, I did another classical album featuring Abhijit Banerjee. He's a great tabla player.
Yeah.
And then my new album, Answers, which is a progressive rock album featuring lots of amazing artists like Tony Levin, Stephen Perkins, all those things, is coming out on October 17th.
1 month.
Then, that's when it's coming. In fact, I'm leaving for New York City, like September 25th, because I have a bunch of shows like in Chicago, New York, and all these stuff, and radio shows and all these stuff. And so I will be there when the album comes out. And then like in November onwards, after Answers, I'm releasing a remastered version of, I did an album with Zakir Hussain and Bhikkhu Vinayakaram called Enlightenment.
Okay.
And so I remastered and everything else. So that's coming out in November. Then I'm releasing a trilogy, like 3 albums together. This trilogy is all on Indian music, world music, really our stuff. All my Rakam Thanam Pallavi, all these complicated Pallavis and everything else, really. But beautiful improvisations. These 3 albums are, the first one is being released, Enlightenment, in November, with Zakir and Vinayakaram. The second one is called Eternal Light, which is also with Zakir and Vinayakaram, that's coming out. And the third one is called Auberry, which the title might a little bit vary, because all these things were released. Like around, Auberry was originally released in 1995. And then I remastered and worked it again. And Eternal Light and Enlightenment, they were released around 2000. So that was I released them marking the 25th anniversary of me and Zakir and Vinayakaram working together that was 25th year in 2000 year. And then Zakir went on an album. He asked me, he opened his own Moment Records. He said, Shankar, can you give me an album? No? I said, sure. So I gave him, to him, just Eternal Light, that album. That's the one which is going to be remastered, and I will be releasing them also after Enlightenment. So there's 3 albums coming out, trilogy. Those are like amazing classical works, master works, really, which we have played many times in concerts.
What do you think most artists gain with this remastering process, which is so much involved these days for the return of vinyl records, especially? Do you think that you probably think that you're going to give new life to the music and recover some things that were like kept hidden in some way?
Because what happens is that many times you give it to a record company, for them, it doesn't matter to them what you are selling. So they're not giving really live. All these records, even though it's in a record, it's like 3 of our lives is all put together. These are like master work. You have to pay attention. So whereas I took them all, so I am now releasing all my records. Since last year, then I've finished another beautiful album called Ocean of Truth, which is all never released before. It's all like soundtrack, what I did for Martin Scorsese's for Last Temptation of Christ. It's all those kind of minimal singing and very moody emotions and everything else. So I would have released like 6 albums in my label, and I got like world distribution. So you're equally giving like preference to all the music is important. So when you give it to somebody else, they only give importance to the one which you sell.
Okay.
So
Okay. I
whereas
understand.
I want my music to be around, no? Yeah.
Sure. Now, of your two recent albums, Over the Stars and Full Moon, that are ranked higher on the world music charts, surely the moon, as you were saying, and the stars are strong inspirational elements visually and spiritually, apart from its evident visual attractive. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
With Bhikkhu and Akram, I go like way so many years, and I
Yeah.
only invite them to come to Shakti. So we spent a lot of time playing music together, talking, and I know his family really well, his parents, his mom, and everything else. And so we grew up together also, like in India too, before we came to America. So we played a lot together. So we have lots of similar backgrounds. So he's an amazing musician, incredible musician. And over the star, then I have also Bhikkhu's son, who's Salva Ganesh. He's a wonderful Ganjira player who's also playing. He was also part of Remember Shakti.
Yeah.
And Salva's son, which is Swaminathan, he's also a wonderful Ganjira player. He's also on the album. But they had a group called 3G, which was like Bhikkhu Akram, Salva Ganesh, and Swaminathan, 3 of them, that's 3G. So I used the whole 3 of them, and that was a collaboration between Bhikkhu and myself. So that's the album Over the Stars. So it was really a memorable one. And then I went and worked, and Bhikkhu has a studio like in Chennai. So I also used to live in Chennai, even though I was moving around a lot. So it was wonderful. And some of this work, we have also played that in live in concerts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The next
Now,
one, the full
yes.
moon is it's like Abhijit Banerjee. I've worked with him for 8 or 9 years, uh, and he's a wonderful musician. We always are keeping in touch and rehearsing through Zoom for music and all those kind of stuff. I'm playing with him again in India now when I go there, and he played with me in America. He lives in America also and India. He's an amazing musician, but most of the time, I think to have a classic sound and album, and you need some great musicians always. And
Yeah.
then you need to work your mind together, yeah, for
So,
arrangements.
you know when things are going to work, when you have fellow musicians that share your interests, the origins, maybe the
Yeah,
influences. Mhm. All right. Now, didn't join the reunion. You were just mentioned remembering Shakti. You didn't join
yeah.
that reunion except for a short 1982-84 tour, I guess. I believe you didn't stay with Shakti due to some timing issues, like when I think the last record you made with them with Shakti was 1977, and then you were not in the Remember Shakti reunion, no?
Yeah, I wasn't there. In fact, to be honest with you, I wasn't asked.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. See, it was some other political reason, whatever. And so
I,
John and Zaki, because usually I kind of demand lots of rehearsals because I was the main in Shakti originally when we started. John and I met every day for over a month or 2 months period. I'll rehearse with him and teach him all these lines, and he might change some stuff or things like that. Then Zakir and Bhikkhu will come like 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. So they will rehearse with us and tape it. Those days are only cassette. So they will tape it on the cassette tape recorder and then go and learn and put some beats and come next day. So we did a like 2 month rehearsal before we went on the road, like in 1975, I think, opening for Weather Report. That's
no.
when Jaco Pastorius has joined.
Mhm.
And so the first 3 albums, I was very, very active, and I always demanded like rehearsals. I always demanded rehearsal. But I also worked a lot with Frank Zappa. Like Frank Zappa is an incredible musician. He works so hard, no? So no musician, even my own music, I work a lot, a lot. restudying to make sure for interpretation and maintaining your voice, maintaining your violin technique and all those stuff. So after 3 albums, I think the band got very established very quickly, more than we expected, because Mahavishnu orchestras, at least you can expect, it was more in the Western route. It became very famous within 3 years and all the World Music Festival and everything else. And the band, they lost the interest. I'm not talking about Banakram, the other two, yeah.
Okay.
So they are very, very busy. And so with John, when I tell him, John, we need rehearsals, then he said, no, it's no problem. We can make it happen. I always believe that if we are doing it, we have to give the best show as possible, as our last show, if not better. Nobody knows everything, really. Nobody knows everything, even your own music. So you have to be working. And the artist should definitely have like inclination to be better and better, to learn and cycle for the future and things like that. So the interest wasn't same. So they let me go.
Okay.
I wasn't asked.
No, now I was wondering how much of it was written, I mean, during the recording sessions for the Columbia albums, and how much of it was improvisation, especially in the longer pieces. I ask you with the total innocence because it's a naive question, but I don't know really.
All the melodies the melodies are written is played in unison with John and me, or he's playing the changes I'm playing. So all those melodies are written, and then they are long improvisation. Those are improvisation. Maybe in the first album it was from a live concert, so there's lots of improvisation. But all the 3 albums, all those compositions are written, and then of course we improvise. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we move to another topic, I'd like to know one
more thing I want to add. But in all my concerts, Shakti is very important to me too. It's one of the finest bands, really, I was with. So in fact, many of my concerts, even in America where I'm going, I've always incorporated the Shakti songs. And people ask me, so I've covered all the Shakti songs from the original first 3 albums where I was part of. Yeah, so I cover them all.
I understand. Now, I was going to ask you, how do your religious beliefs and music come together, really? I'm sure there's a total combination of that in some way.
Actually, my religious belief is I love all religion. Music is my religion, actually. And like in India, there are lots of Christians, lots of Muslims, lots of Hindus. And I always work like Last Temptation of Christ, and I worked on India films with Krishna. All these things are, I think, all these gods are different religions. We are the people, so I really love the music. So I really connect. Music is the highest religion to me. Yeah.
Now, surely some people, and many of them, maybe you and I, have the feeling or believe that music could be the language of whatever God you want to believe is. Because it unites people, it brings people together.
We don't need to understand the language. Say suddenly I hear somebody from Chile, they are playing the saxophone. Even if I don't know the language, I said, "Oh my God, this is beautiful," so I can connect to it.
Yeah, there must be some profound common element. Now, you just mentioned that about your work on the so-called silver screen, the movies, I mean. Peter Gabriel's Passion of 1989 won a Grammy Award, and then you worked for Mel Gibson's and his movie, very impressive movie, The Passion of the Christ in 2004, which won, I think, the Dove Awards. How different was your experience with Martin Scorsese and Mel Gibson, who requested you for, make some music for this Christ character on each film, which is very different on each film? Sorry, and did you write the music during the shooting or once the films were finished? Do you have any special memories about that, these two simultaneous and similar assignments?
Actually, to give you a little history, the original Last Temptation of Christ, I was all over the place. And so I worked with Martin Scorsese. And in New York City, it was just Martin and me. And so he would play me the scenes and show me this. So tell me the stories, the emotion he was expecting. So I would improvise and start writing. It's just him and me. Peter was in England at the time. So that's how we completed all my thing in New York City. Then all my files were sent to London, Bath, I mean England, Bath. That's where Peter had a studio. Later, Mel Gibson loved my voice very much. That's what he told me directly. So he used like a temp score, all my voices. So when he was making the Passion of the Christ, so while they are making the movie, he has used my voice as temp score. And then he was looking for me. So eventually, when he got me, Martin Scorsese's was a very classic movie, The Last Temptation. But you know, Mel Gibson is an action star also. So in fact, there was a little much too much beating. So in fact, I used to ask him, "Oh my God, there's a lot more blood, no, in this
Yes.
movie. Yeah, a lot more blood." And probably he's an action star, or maybe it could have been another reason for the people, whatever, you know, is he wanted the movie to do well, probably, yeah. And so it was more like dramatic in some way, yeah.
Yeah. I heard there were some special, almost unexplainable issues during the shooting of Mel Gibson's movie, and I think that I've seen Jim Cassibel, the star, the one who performs Christ, describing some situations that like you were they were shooting in a sunny day, and then it all suddenly became like cloudy or dark. I don't know if it's just myth or whatever, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Now, about film scoring, do you ever become emotionally involved with the characters, the plot, or other elements on a film when you score films, or do you work on the musician side as an outsider, so to speak? How do you work this process?
The process is I do get emotionally involved because my music is very emotional
Hmm.
anyway. So if you're going for characters and everything else, you're almost living through them, but through music. So I have to portray somebody's really very angry. I have to portray that. If they're very, very sad, so I have to portray that. Even without seeing, the music has to be so strong. So when you hear that, it should be very sad and create that emotions. So whereas you have a wonderful actor or actresses portraying that, this will help along with the acting and the screening and the photo shoots and everything on the film shoot. It'll help definitely so much. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Now, for film scoring, you've been involved in several projects for film and TV. Now, how do you what did in this case Martin Scorsese and Mel Gibson requested from you? Like music that could be some sort of character, extra character during the action, or just something that triggers some like subtle emotions in the viewers? Because sometimes, you know, some movies, some directors, and some composers, well, it must come from the directors that make have this music on their movies or films that sometimes can be even disruptive or destructive. So I'm sure it's not the case of the Christ or Passion.
The thing is that they knew my sound. Like Peter has played my voice to Martin Scorsese's. So
Okay,
he's the one, oh my God, I really like this very, very much. So can I
okay,
ask him to like produce like 13 different tracks? Get him to
okay.
do, you know. Same thing by time when Mel knew he has known my voice through Passion of the Christ. I mean the Last Temptation of Christ.
Yes,
That's the same happened like when I did the Heroes, the television score, the
yes.
creator, he really loved both the Passion of the Christ and the Last Temptation. So he wanted my voice. So usually I've been lucky. So they never tried to change my thing. They found something in my voice and an emotion. So they wanted me to create, maybe they do it a little longer, a little shorter, or a little more aggressive, or a little more slower, or things like
Uh,
that. No? But so
uh-huh.
they gave me all the freedom, really. So usually I would improvise even for Martin Scorsese. In fact, as I was sound checking, I work pretty improvisation. I work pretty fast. So as soon as I hear a thing, I really understand the emotion. So when I start improvising, he said, "Roll the tape, roll the tape." I
Uh-huh.
said, "This is for just an example. So let me do it again. This is for you. I want to see whether you like this. This fits with your thought." And so they liked it very much. So they'll roll the tape. So I had to make sure uh, before I do it, I just sing in my mind.
Yeah,
So I don't sing immediately. So
yeah. You don't
it's
want things to, yeah. You don't want. things to get out of control in the sense that maybe that was just a suggestion and not your final idea. Yeah.
Exactly, correct.
Yeah. Now,
They gave me a lot of freedom.
sure. Okay, that's interesting. Now, you just mentioned this, and I must be honest and tell you that I only recently found out. Sorry, you have also worked or coincided with no less than two of my favorite musicians, Wendy and Liza, for the NBC TV series Heroes. This score, I think, was released by La La Land Records, and let me mention that Waterfall, the first big single by Wendy and Liza, who came from the Prince band, was popular here a little bit in Chile, and that's one of my favorite songs and albums. They are really great musicians. Could you refer to the work with Wendy and Liza, please?
Actually, when I was living in Los Angeles, there's a studio called Henson Studio.
Okay.
That was a Henson studio. So they were working there. They had many producers like Randy Jackson, and all these guys, and John Shanks, many producers, and Lady Gaga's producer. They all had their room. I worked with Patrick Leonard just before to that. Patrick Leonard was the producer for Madonna's many of the singles from the very beginning, So he had his room. So I have known him before. So one day he called me, he said, Shankar, I have some problems. I'm doing my solo record, so can you come and help me out? So he said, only for 2 tracks. So I went, and from 10 o'clock in the morning till 6 or 7, worked and arranged with him and wrote all these songs with him. Then he loved it so much. Then he said, can you please continue and let me finish the whole album? Can you help me finish the whole album? The engineer for Patrick Leonard was called Michael. Michael was an amazing engineer. He has been working with Patrick Leonard for quite a few years. Then suddenly, Michael told me one day, he said, Shankar, I'm leaving Patrick, and I'm going to Wendy and Lisa to be their engineer. Their room was upstairs. So Michael moved as an engineer to Wendy and Lisa. And then one day Michael called me and he said, can you come here? Because I have a project for you. I cannot tell you what it is. I would like you to lay over some vocals, So that's when they had their keyboards, basic track for the theme for the Heroes. I didn't know it was the theme for the Heroes. That's the song. So immediately I worked there and wrote all those things and sang. So the next day, Michael called me and Wendy called me. I was in Michael's studio, their studio. He said, oh my God, Shankar, this is really amazing. This is really amazing. So we would love you to be part of the whole process. So then I ended up doing like 57 episodes for the Hero. But all the vocal melody, I wrote it myself, everything. All my melodies, I wrote it. But I think contractually, I know they were hired to be the composers. And even before me, they got the contract. So it would say the composers, Wendy and Lisa. To compensate, they gave me like featuring the voice of Shankar and all the episode on the front. Right under Wendy and Lisa, it'll say Shankar featuring the voice of Shankar, And so I did that, and then there was another, after that was over for a few years, they came back and Heroes Reborn. They did that too. And so they're very gifted musicians. They make their own album, different things. And I know they're very, very busy and doing their film scoring and everything else,
Yeah, they've been working on films too. Yeah, now if we go back into a conversation, it would be a real privilege if you could share with us, some memories of your work with Frank Zappa, whom you said was a very hardworking guy. I hear there's a connection with the creation of your stereophonic 10-string double neck violin, which you used on your recordings with him.
Yeah, actually, Frank Zappa is one of the greatest musicians I've worked with. Even then, he was really very futuristic. And he was not into any politics or anything else as far as the music. He just did whatever is right for him, really. And he was very, very strict. And if anyone has played in Frank Zappa's band, there's so many people, great musicians have come out of Frank Zappa's band. You don't have to even audition them. So many people, amazing. He's very, very strict with them. And in fact, in the early 70s, when I met him, I used to play the festival, big festival. So one day, a mutual friend, Ed Mann, he was playing percussion with Frank Zappa. They had only trailers in the back. So I met Frank, and he said, "Sit down." And then he asked me, "Do you have an agent?" I said, "No, I don't have an agent." And he asked me, "Do you have a manager?" I said, "No, I don't have a manager." Then he said, "I would like to sign you," because he was starting Frank Zappa record. So he wanted me to be the first person to be signed to his label. And then I said, "Hey, why do you?" I was always very open, no? Like maybe I was not smart. So it was not a smart business thing. I said, "Why do you want to sign me? I'm not known. See, you know so many people, so well known. So you can sign somebody else, really, you know." He said, "No, no, no, I love your music. Yeah, I know your music very well." So he has researched so many different things. So he has had my recording. The Frank knew like the throat singers, but multiple. He would invite them. Many musicians he would know. He would write like string parts, and he would invite me to this string orchestra he wrote for many years, like in Germany. And whenever they come, he will ask me to come. So Frank was really amazing character. He was always very futuristic. And then once he had his cancer too, he would invite me. So he was working, he was walking very, very slowly. Then I used to be on tour with Peter Gabriel. That's the Secret World tour. So whenever I came back, I'll go and visit him. He'd say, "Come, come, let me show you what I'm working on." And so he's amazing, always like working very, very hard. One of the finest musicians here. Is a great example for a lot of musicians. Yeah.
So you surely did have the chance to meet and play with other artists that I really admire, like Warren Kukurulos and Patrick O'Hearn, the great bass player, and yeah, missing
You know
ex-member,
Patrick
missing
O'Hara.
person. Yeah,
Yeah, I know
yeah,
Patrick O'Hara. We have
uh-huh.
jammed together. He did Frank Zappa's band, and
Yes,
also Terry Bozzio. Terry Bozzio was there too. And then uh, Frank had this TV show recorded on BBC in his house, and so where Terry Bozzio was playing, and Patrick O'Hearn. I had a band called Sadhu at the time, Sadhu, and so Patrick O'Hearn's brother played the bass.
yes,
And then he was very talented. He was like 17 years. Then I had another drummer called Jerry Cucurullo. He was the younger brother of Warren Cucurullo.
sure,
And
yeah,
Warren also worked with Frank. Then he went to Duran Duran. Still like a small.
family. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if you visited us back in 1993, but how was your experience on the Secret World Tour with Peter Gabriel? Because we saw Peter here back in 93. I imagine you visited countries you had never
Yeah.
visited, or you had not played solo yet in Latin America, for example.
No, I visited there and we played there. So usually it's like two days or 3 days, and you keep going, you know,
Uh-huh.
move to other places. It's not. So we saw some places, but I think I really enjoyed very much. I think Sinead O'Connor was there too.
Okay. And how comfortable do you feel during tours? Because tours can sometimes be quite exhausting and extensive. How do you come along with that experience of touring, traveling everywhere around?
One thing is that you have to learn to rest and have time to practice with all these songs that are going on when they are learning new music. So even at the hotel, I'm not a party guy. So many times musicians they're like rock stars. They go to the bar, all these kind
Yes.
of stuff. I'm not interested in any of that because I have to go. Usually on Peter's tour, I had extra work because Peter had lots of um, interviews and so many things. So a sound engineer will hand over every day's concert. At those days, it was DAT, small DAT, no? So I have to listen to them to make notes to what's going on for corrections at the rehearsals and everything else. Then Peter would ask me, so I'll tell him this is going on. We need work on this song, all these kind of stuff to get it better and things like that. So I was working. So most of the time, I would just order room service in my room upstairs and then eat slowly, work on the music and relax and take rest and get ready for the next day. Yeah. But they were long tour. Each tour was like 2.5 years. Yeah, at that time, I know all those time I was always working my own solo albums. So I'm reminded during that period what all album I did. But at that time, I don't have even a computer and there was no iPhones.
True.
And so nowadays I keep a very good digital, like in my computer, what all I'm working on. So those days I used to write down uh, books, and it took like 4 books for every year, like maybe if it's 100 page or it's a lot. You cannot be carrying them. And nowadays on my email thing, if you go and if you write it on the computer, you can check whatever you have done, like last year, different thing. So usually all those periods, I remember doing even in my discography, not all the albums are here. There are even more albums which have to
Wow.
be had. Yeah.
And they are a lot in the official
Yeah.
discography already. Yeah.
Like this year itself, in the last year, starting from August, I would have released I would have had like completed like 6 albums. Yeah.
Yeah, and you released two in 2024. So one after the other. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
then now, October 17th, the Answers is coming out. That's a progressive rock album with Tony Levins, Stephen Perkins, and many of them, progressive artists. And then I'm releasing Enlightenment. That's in November with Zakir and Vikram. That's a classical album. Then I'm releasing again Eternal Light with the same
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
I'm releasing Aubrey, and then afterwards only I'm releasing Ocean of Truth. That's a more like a soundtracky, very spaced out, Last Temptation of Christ kind of film soundtracky sound, a
Yeah.
cappella and violin and all the stuff there.
Okay. Now, if we go back a little bit in history, I wanted to mention, I think that you probably must be proud and happy about the BBC documentary film Bombay and All That Jazz, which I understand
Yeah,
was made as a tribute to your dad, to your father, and which came out short time after you started the Lakshmi Narayana Festival. Is that all right?
correct. I started the Lakshmi Narayana Festival because my father passed away like in 1990, and he's an amazing vocalist singer. And so so we had a live concert. That was the first time the Lakshmi Narayana Festival ever happened. And then I had it like in Mumbai facing the beach. And I had Zakir, I had Bikku Vinayakram, then I had Alice Coltrane playing the harp, I had Thrilla Gurtu, and I had Don Cherry.
No.
It was wonderful, yeah. A group of people, celebration of love, and that's how we did the Lakshmi Narayana Festival for the first time, exactly.
Could your father tour outside his home country? Uh, could he?
Yeah, he toured like in Malaysia, and he toured in Sri Lanka, and then he came to America too. He came to Germany with me too for ECM records, sometime different thing. But by then he was kind of aging, so it was a little more difficult for him to tour.
Mhm,
Not
mhm.
often. Once he come, he needed break. Yeah.
Okay. Now, getting closer to my final questions, Shankar. I'd like to go back to the fact that I mentioned at the beginning that the Song for Everyone by you, Jan Gabarek, Hussain, and Gurtu was always on top of my playlist on Future FM here in Santiago, Chile in the 90s. How did the ECM contract take place? The ECM is a prestigious jazz fusion label. It's been so for years. So how did things happen in that area?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Very good question. Manfred wrote me a letter saying that, Shankar, I would like to record you very much. He said, I'm not a fan of Shakti. That's what he wrote. I'm not a fan of Shakti, but I'm a fan of yours. So I want to make a solo record for you if you're interested. And we are this label. We have been around. I think they created only like in 1969 or one of those stuff. No, really, yeah. It came probably when they started. And then I checked. I think the label came like in 1969, probably, yeah.
Hmm. And could you do some other collaborations apart from these
Yeah, then
musicians?
he asked me, so I did that's the time, actually, to go back, there's a connection with Frank Zappa. Because Zappa, when I did my solo album for him, that was Touch Me There, I used to overdub different instruments, cello, violin, viola, all these different things. And then I played different genres of music. So I used to have different violins for all these things, for rock music, or for Shakti, or classical music, and all those stuff. Then it was very difficult to take many instruments. So I
Hmm.
was designing one instrument, where I could carry this one instrument So I can use it for everything, all these things. So I designed this on a cardboard instrument, cardboard, made of cardboard. Then I used to walk there's a 48th Street in New York City. Every store it's a music store, everything. So I used to walk to each store and ask the owner, can he give me somebody else? So can he someone make me this? They said, no, it's not possible. It's not possible. So I said, no, it may not be possible for you, but it's possible for me. And so give me your best worker. Many of them refused, except one guy called Stuyvesant Music. And he said, Shankar, I love your music. I'll give you the best worker, which is Ken Parker. So he gave me Ken Parker for 2 months, the summer. So I will go there every day. And that's how we completed the double violin. So I used my double violin in ECM, my first album for ECM called Who's to Know. That's the album Zakir played with and Mayarpuram Shivaraman played. And my father was also there conducting, some very complicating compositions and everything else. And so that's how I did for ECM. Then Manfred always, he came up and he loved that album very much. We recorded that in Germany. Then he said, the next album I would like you to do, then I have a musician I would like you to work with. He's Jan Garbrack. Okay. And I would love to play your music. He loved me as a composer also. So I heard Jan Garbrack's few albums, and he's an amazing, incredible musician. I loved Jan Garbrack so much. Then I wrote all these songs, a song for everyone. Then I went to Oslo and we rehearsed them, learning the melody and everything else. With ECM, normally it's only 3 days of recording, 2 days of recording, and 1 day mixing. Before that, I was there for 10 days. I rehearsed everything with the musician. Then we go to the studio, first 2 days, we record everything. Usually it's the first take or maybe second take if something sound or something is wrong or whatever. Not any more than that. Normally it's first take. So we finished that album, and that's when I found out my mom passed away at that time, 84. So I dedicated that record, Song for Everyone, to my mom. So there's a picture of her in the back.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I was going to mention that I find some of the tracks, the ones that I usually ever played, are like kind of melancholic, but also there's some happiness also from time to time. So congratulations for that amazing album and for all that you made. Yeah, you really, it's easy to understand why you became a favorite of so many talented musicians. So you must be very proud of yourself, and well, you should be proud of yourself. I know you are, and I'm glad that you're still going strong and releasing music. And I was going to say that, well, thank you for the time. Take good care. Play on, please, and please keep delivering the gift of music and love for the world, which is what you have been doing for so long. We are living in such different, complex times these days, with social, political, almost chaos. I don't know. I'm sure you have some optimistic side on you, because otherwise we cannot survive. What do you feel?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And thank you so much for inviting me, because I think people like us, we have to keep on going and unite the people, and always love will prevail and positivity will win, even though there's so much of negativity in the world, and like in America, so many other places, but there are lots of amazing people. So I think their mind, when we put it all together, there's a very special energy. Like, look at Mahatma Gandhi. He freed India, one man. Yeah. And like how Martin Luther King was helping in America, all these things. Same thing with, I work with Nelson Mandela, so many things. Many times people are very, very strong. So we have to keep going and spread the peace and the unity. And because I'm a very ordinary musician, to me, I'm not anything special. I'm a very ordinary person. I'm always seeking to be better. And musicians have to learn, artists have to be humble, because there's always somebody better than you. And so we have to always go further, learn, willing to learn, to go further and respect others,
Yeah, that's true. You are still here among us, with us, because of your humbleness and because of your talent to create. And thank you for that. And I wish you can continue for much more time. So thanks. It's been an honor and a pleasure. I hope it's not the last time.
And let me know when the show is going to be on, so I can when is it going to be on? Let me know the show.
Sure, I will. I will.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Christian. Take care. All the
Thank you.
best.
Take care as well.
Love the Chile people, all the people. Yeah, love them. Yeah.
Thank you.